Hi, I'm Bob Raynolds. I'm a geologist based in Denver, Colorado, and I'm going to give a brief talk about using Avenza uh, while doing geological field mapping and field map checking in Kenya. We're going to be in the northwestern part of Kenya. I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to run a PowerPoint. Let me just see if I can get it to work. Stand by for this to happen. Here comes the PowerPoint, and I'm going to start out. We're going to be talking about an area up at Lake Turkana, and the concept is that we've, over the last 50 years that I've been involved with the work out there, we've gone from ink and mylar and air photographs to digital products, and of course now to Avenza. The location of our area is in the northwestern part of Kenya, up on the Ethiopian-South Sudan border. Lake Turkana is in the East African Rift Valley. It's a beautiful lake, the largest desert lake in the world. It's a very arid landscape, separated by the Ethiopian and Kenyan domes. It's in a low saddle area, and it's a magnificently beautiful area. We get there by flying in airplanes. This was an unusual situation where it was actually raining and we were refueling in the rain. But that's the easiest way to get around in this country. The views are magnificent. You look down onto the lake from the air. You can see the faulting, which is the linear patterns in the foreground, cinder cones and volcanoes, some of which have been active in historic times. And then the lake itself, which is a beautiful blue-green color, and it's been called the Jade Sea. So let's go and see what it looks like on the ground. It can be pretty monotonous. The landscapes can be low relief, can be difficult to know exactly where you are as you walk around or drive around on the land. One valley looks a lot like another, and navigation can be a challenge. We work with the Turkana Basin Institute based in Stony Brook, Long Island, part of the SUNY University of New York program. And we take students to Lake Turkana. We have a field school, and we do a wonderful curriculum that involves geology, paleoanthropology, archaeology, human evolution, and ecology. And it's a super program run through Stony Brook. Here, my colleague Craig Feibel is leading some students into the field, and we give them a lot of field-based lectures and exercises. They learn how to make maps, they learn how to navigate, they learn about the geology, and of course the history of the region, which includes stone tools and fossils, including fossils of our ancestors. We travel around in vehicles. Students all get to know each other pretty well. We get to know some of the local people pretty well. There's some amazing cultural blends here between students from the United States. In the middle is a student from China, talking to young students and kids here in Lake Turkana. This was a big ceremony. People were gathered together, and they were enjoying seeing their photographs on smartphones. And it was a very formal ceremony for them. Wonderful to have the opportunity to see this. Traditions that have been going on for thousands and thousands of years. But there are changes taking place rapidly in this area. You'll see the traditional hut in the foreground, and then increasingly they're using metal to cover their huts, as you see in the background. And in the area on the northeastern side of the lake, there's actually photovoltaic systems coming in. There's a little micro solar powered electrical grid, and it's been an amazing transformation in just the last few years. So people are living in the little hut in the foreground, and in the background is an array of PV with its associated battery storage. And if you follow the wires, they take you to this little building which says Wananchi Shop, which means it's a shop of the people. And if you go into that shop, you're greeted by your hostess, and she's got an electric light. And even more importantly, she's got a little cooler over in the corner where she has cold drinks. It's an amazing transformation in just the last few years. As we work out in the field, it's a very rugged landscape, as I mentioned. And this is a place where we were working on these sandstone beds associated with ancient Lake Turkana shorelines. And there was a warthog that lived in that little hole on the lower right. And he came roaring out with his tail up in the air. He was quite offended that we were trespassing on his landscape. So it's a blend of geology and wildlife, and just a wonderful place to do research. There are fossils. These are fossil gastropods, and that anteater for scale is about 6.2 centimeters long. So these are pretty good sized snails. An old coquina or shell bed on the ancient margins of the lake. This would be a deposits here about 1.5 million years old. And there's all kinds of fossil bones around. This might be part of perhaps a fossilized bovid. Not quite sure which species, but that's a leg bone or a foot bone, really, and an ankle bone. Again, the same anteater. There's also fossil hominids. This is the famous 1470 skull found by the Leakey team back in 1972. It's, of course, been put together. It was in many hundreds of fragments. And there you see it's been reassembled. And we brought a cast of it back to the site where it was found for the students to see. Of course, the real specimen is in a vault in Nairobi, kept very carefully. The saga of this skull, about 1.9 million years old. It was featured in National Geographic and Time magazine, a very exciting feature discovered by Richard Leakey and his team. They've also found a wide variety of stone tools, including the world's oldest stone tools, which are 3.3 million years old on the left-hand side. And then they get increasingly sophisticated as you come up. About 1.76 million years ago, we invented the hand axe and introduced the Acheulean industry, so-called. And of course, the tools come right up to the modern, and they get increasingly sophisticated. But we're looking at the geology. We're aiming at maps. Here we're looking at a geological map. We're trying to figure out where we are on the map, and we're trying to find clues on the landscape and clues on the map to allow us to figure out where we are. We used to do this by trying to remember the spots. You know, you go to that spot, and that's where you are. We've become more sophisticated now. We do work with handheld GPS and field notes and make our maps in a more modern way, including a variety of computers. The maps and images are on lots of computers. This is in the museum in Nairobi. The maps started out, this is a map made in 1973, made on Mylar with an air photograph and hand inked and colored. We then went to using Google Earth and Adobe Illustrator to make this kind of a map of the same area, a little bit more sophisticated. And then in the last couple of years, we've gone to ArcGIS. And we have a mapping system now where we put everything into Arc and everything is geo-registered. And we have a magnificent array of maps. They're quite big. They were put together by Geologic Data Systems in Littleton, Colorado. And you can see they're large. And as we were checking them in the field, they're quite big. The wind would blow. We would drip sweat on them because it's always very hot here. So the paper maps were a little bit of a challenge. We'd put some cover on and then again look at the maps, but it was a challenge to just deal with the large pieces of paper. And so here's where Avenza comes into play. We made tiles of the maps and loaded them into Avenza. And here you can see students from the Lodwar area, the Turkana University College. They're taking the files off of a Macintosh and putting it onto their smartphone so that they can use the geological maps on a telephone. And of course, that's exactly what we did. Here you see it on an iPad. You can see the little blue dot representing the place we are. And you can imagine the great joy of being able to know exactly where you are on a geo-registered map. And we're very pleased to have a report that after spending the month of February of 2022 in the field, checking the maps, they're wonderfully accurate and also very precise. And so it was give us this great joy to use the Avenza tool. And I'm going to stop the screen sharing and just finish up with just a comment that we now have this wonderful digital map set, and we have it on servers. We have it on a server at Rutgers. We have it on a server at Stony Brook. We have a server at Columbia University in New York. And we also have it on servers in Nairobi. But one of our big challenges is going to be maintaining the iterations or the versions of the digital map and keeping the servers up to date. So we've created a wonderful set of maps. Avenza has given us the ability to know where we are in the field And we are extremely grateful to the entire team at Avenza for giving us this capacity. Thank you all very much.